And now we will hear a friend, very long time, a friend of Iranian people and Iranian democracy, Senator Gerry Horkan, member of the Irish Senate.
Good afternoon, everybody. Madame Rajavi, honourable colleagues and friends, it's a really great honour to join today's distinguished panellists for this very important further discussion on Iran on the third day of the Free Iran World Summit 2023. And since Friday, we have had great discussions and contributions on the current situation in Iran and on its future. And I think everybody here would agree that Iran will be one of the countries we must watch closely in the coming months, given its history and importance for the Middle East and the future progress of not just the region, but indeed the world. The continuing popular push to make Iran more free and democratic is an encouraging step and welcoming development. When, not if, the Iranian people are successful in their endeavours to establish a democratic republic, the world will breathe a sigh of relief and start to think seriously about building friendship and real cooperation for the benefit of Iran, the region and the world. But I have to stress it's when and not if it happens. And as many of my colleagues and distinguished speakers have explained both today and indeed since Friday, the people of Iran have the tools in the resistance units, the platform in your plan, Mrs. Rajavi, your 10-point plan, which we've heard so much about, and a viable alternative in the NCRI to succeed. The people of Iran have a very difficult road ahead, as we know, but their courage and determination are bringing the regime to its knees. The regime in Tehran is at its weakest moment in its history. The mullahs are stuck in several crises, particularly a crisis of legitimacy, which they cannot resolve. This explains the bloody crackdown on peaceful protests, plots against the NCRI in Albania and France, and an unprecedented level of executions in the country. This shows that terror and repression are two of the pillars upon which the regime relies to hold on to power. And indeed, a third pillar is the regime's push to acquire nuclear weapons. We can't be fooled by Tehran's claims and rhetoric. Its nuclear programs is not civilian, and the sanctions are not the reason for Iran's economic woes, because we know the regime does not care about the ordinary Iranian people. If it did, there would be not so many of them in poverty. We know that to crush the popular uprising, the regime prioritises the IRGC and domestic crackdown and ballistic and nuclear advancements instead of using its money to improve the Iranian people's harsh living conditions and alleviate the country's faltering economy. The EU must designate the IRGC. It should add more Iranian names to its sanctions list, and above all, the EU must take concrete steps at the international level, including the UN, to end the culture of impunity in Iran. And to do this, the regime must be referred to the UN Security Council, and we must force the regime to allow UN inspections of the prison system. This was what I was going to say anyway, but I'm touched at the fact that I'm saying it now after our Ukrainian colleague, because, ladies and gentlemen, the regime in Iran is effectively waging a war against its own people. Very similar as what Russia is doing to the people of Ukraine and its people, and indeed in Ireland. We have over 80,000 Ukrainians in Ireland at the moment, which we're giving protection to, international protection. But we know that they want to be back in a free Ukraine, in their own country, rebuilding it with the help of all of us. But as we support Ukraine against evil Russia and its illegal invasion of Ukraine, we must also support the NCRI and the Iranian people as they strive to liberate their country from the mullahs. Just in conclusion, some of the words we've heard at our sessions on Friday and indeed yesterday and today, the words that keep coming up: repression, suppression, poverty, nuclear, the drones, the Russian situation, the 10-point plan, the funding of international terrorism. And as my own former Prime Minister said last night, we are all being written to by the regime, by the Iranian ambassador, and we are all being told that this is not an organisation we should be involved with. But clearly, to have so many people from so many countries, we had 16 countries at our talks on Friday evening, mostly from various parts of Europe, but also Canada. And we can see today we've got many, many other countries here, a lot of Middle Eastern countries and African countries, and countries like myself, Ukraine, Holland, the Netherlands, and so on. So I want to thank the NCRI and indeed you, Mrs. Rajavi, for all you're doing to let us know, because before I became a Member of Parliament, I have to say, a little bit like our Ukrainian colleague, I didn't know as much about Iran as I do now, and that's why I'm here. And let's hope that sooner rather than later we can all be in Tehran, in a free and democratic Tehran, visiting that wonderful country and its wonderful people. Thank you very much. Thank you.